Welcome to our 20th post-cabinet briefing for 2024. To lead us in today's proceedings, let me invite the chairperson of the session, our Honorable Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Dr. Mswele, to give us today's cabinet highlights. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. Members of the Fourth Estate Cabinet considered a report on the food deficit mitigation strategy and urban transfer program, which was presented by the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Honorable Dr. Incius Masuka. The first 3 months distribution blitz, which started in May 2024, is coming to an end this month, July 2024. Accordingly, modalities for the second phase, August to October 2024, are being worked out. These include the grain movement plan, the urban cash distribution plan, and the mobilization of more financial resources for the 3 months distribution. As at 2 July 2024, a cumulative 62,696 metric tons of grain had been distributed to vulnerable and food insecure people across the country's provinces as follows. Manicaland, 9,050 metric tons. Mashonaland Central, 7,844. Mashonaland East, 6,207. Mashonaland West, 7,990. Mashingo, 12,246. Matabeleland North, 4,248. Matabeleland South, 5,201. Midlands, 10,104. Furthermore, a total of 3,397 metric tons have been collected to date by chiefs across all provinces under the Zunderamambo Ispahla Senkosi Strategic Grain Reserve Distribution Program, whilst the district development coordinators in the provinces will coordinate all activities for the impending Public Works Program. Cabinet considered and approved the proposed partnership between the Mining Promotion Corporation and Prospect Brook Private Limited to conduct exploration and mine development of Arcturus Exclusive Prospecting Order number 1842 as presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Professor Mthuli. The joint venture seeks to prospect and explore for lithium and pegmatite minerals in Goromonzi, Mashonaland East Province. In terms of the agreement, a special purpose vehicle with the MPC, which will turn into a joint venture, will be established, in which Prospect Brook Resources will hold 70% shareholding and the Mining Promotion Company 30% in terms of the exploration stage. Prospect Brook Resources has demonstrated technical and financial capacity to undertake the project, and exploration is expected to commence once the joint venture agreement has been signed by the parties. Prospecting and exploration are estimated to take not more than 5 years from the date of commencement, and the joint venture shareholding structure will be renegotiated after the exploration stage if the project proceeds to mine development commences in terms of the mining activities with respect to the mining plan. The joint venture agreement is in line with the standing policy on public-private partnerships. Cabinet received an update on the preparations for Zimbabwe's participation at the Expo 2025 Osaka, as presented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Honorable Dr. Frederick Shava. Zimbabwe will participate at the Expo 2025 Osaka in Japan from starting in April to the 30th of October 2025 under the theme Beyond the Limits. The Expo presents a great opportunity for Zimbabwe to showcase the Second Republic's achievements and investment potential to a wide range of high pedigree international investors and other attendees. Preparations for the Expo have begun in earnest, and engagements are being undertaken with the private sector for the provision of the services required to mount a successful exhibition. The private sector will also come up with projects that will be profiled under the tourism, investment and trade categories of the Expo. In addition, umbrella organizations like the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries and the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce have been engaged to mobilize their numbers to support the planned activities as well as supply products for sale at the commercial section during the Expo. Zimbabwe will exhibit products and services representing Zimbabwe's diverse economic sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, mining, tourism and technology. Live performances and demonstrations showcasing Zimbabwe's rich cultural heritage, artistic talents and innovations will be organized for the duration of the Expo. Cabinet received and noted an update on the preparations for the Zimbabwe Agricultural Show as presented by the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Honorable Dr. A.J. Masuka. The 114th edition of the Zimbabwe Agricultural Show will be held from Monday 26th of August 2024 to Saturday 31st of August 2024 under the theme Cultivating Prosperity, Growing Business, Innovating for Change, Nurturing Our Future. The show will be organized around the agri-produce, tobacco, cotton, livestock and commercial exhibition sections. To date, 52,218 square meters of the available 78,224 square meters for commercial exhibitions has been taken up by 208 exhibitors. Exhibitors from Pakistan, Japan, Netherlands, Brazil, Italy, Malawi, Botswana, South Africa and Turkey have shown interest to participate at this year's Zimbabwe Agricultural Show. And the Show Society has partnered with several stakeholders to host business interfaces such as the Environmental, Social and Governance Breakfast Conference, the 12th Annual National Agribusiness Conference, the Ambassadors Interface and the Research for Agricultural Policy Influence Conference. The show will be officially opened on Friday, the 31st of August 2024. An array of artists and musicians have been lined up. Cabinet considered and approved the ratification of the SADC Protocol on Environmental Management for Sustainable Development as presented by the Attorney General, Honorable Virginia Mabiza, on behalf of the Chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. The protocol establishes principles derived from the Rio Declaration on Sustainable Development, which include cooperation in good faith among state parties, sovereign rights of state parties to use their resources, participation of all interested parties in environmental governance, resolution of differences amicably, placing the needs of people at the center of development, precautionary approach, polluter pays principle, and the extended producer responsibility, among others. The protocol applies to all state party activities relating to environmental management, among others. The protocol places the following obligations on state parties: to institute measures to manage and control transboundary effects of air pollution, to manage and control transboundary effects of waste and chemicals, to combat desertification and land degradation, and implement sustainable land management practices, and to mitigate adverse environmental impacts on marine and coastal environments as well as inland water resources. The protocol is in line with the National Development Strategy 1, pillar on environmental protection, climate resilience, and sustainable natural resources management, and ratification of the protocol will enhance cooperation with other SADC member states. Cabinet received a report on the first session of the Zimbabwe-Venezuela Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation as presented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Honorable Dr. Frederick Chara. The first session of the Zimbabwe-Venezuela Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation was held in Caracas, Venezuela from 24 to the 27th of June 2024. During the session, the two countries agreed to expand the cooperation agenda to include sectors such as energy, agriculture, culture, education, science and technology, mining, housing, youth, air services, transportation, combating unilateral coercive measures, integrating financial services, and exemption of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic and service passports. The parties agreed to hold regular and periodic consultations and strongly condemned unilateralism and the imposition of illegal sanctions on Zimbabwe and on Venezuela by Western countries. A call was made for the unconditional removal of these sanctions and for the democratization of multilateral institutions, in particular the reform of the United Nations Security Council, to conform to current global challenges. During the session of the Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation, 10 agreements and MOUs were signed as follows. The agreement on the exemption of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic and service passports, an MOU on cooperation in the study of unilateral coercive measures and other restrictive or punitive measures, the MOU on cooperation in the field of hydrocarbons, MOU on cooperation in the field of higher education, memorandum on cooperation in the field of environment, climate change, biodiversity, forestry resources, and sustainable development. Memorandum on cooperation in the field of investigation of aviation accidents. Memorandum on cooperation in the field of mining. Memorandum on cooperation in the use of applications of space technology and science. Memorandum on cooperation in the field of youth affairs and cultural affairs. The National Healing and Outreach Program, the Gukura Wundi, which is currently focusing on Matabeleland, is now slated for Sunday, this Sunday in Bulawayo. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Broadcasting Services, for highlighting to the members of the press today's cabinet briefing. We now move to the first round of 3 questions from the members of the press. Then we have the ministers here present to respond. After those responses, we move to the second and last round of 3 questions, and again the ministers will then respond. Then we call it a day. Over to you, colleagues.
Yes.
Herbert Mtugu from New Zealand. Sundira Mambu is Parasenkosi. How is the grain that is mobilized under this program being used by the traditional leaders? That is one question. And then, in the same spirit that we have heard of the figures of grain that has been distributed around the country, can we also have the figures of under the cash disbursement program? What have been the figures? How much has been distributed and to how many people?
Yes.
My question is similar to the things here. You say the food program is coming to in the first 3 months. Can you tell us the figures that they will use in the first 3 months and the other coming 3 months?
The first what?
The first 3 months, June, May to July. The figures to the upcoming from August to October. My name is Chivhayo. I'm saying, Minister, we want to know the figures the figures of the funds that was to mobilize food for first 3 months from May to July, then the upcoming also phase from August to October.
The figures of the money that was used
The money.
that was used to mobilize grain.
The last question in this round. Minister, then respond.
Oh, it didn't come. All right. Thank you, Itai and Herbert. The first question relates to the Zundera Mambo. How is the grain that has been mobilized being distributed to the chiefs? The response is that currently 3,397.33 metric tons had been collected by the chiefs across all provinces in Zimbabwe. Whilst the district development coordinators in the provinces will coordinate all activities for the impending public works program. The whole idea is that you want to look at who is being targeted by these chiefs. We believe that in terms of the government architecture, the chiefs play a pivotal role in terms of community development. And generally, they chair rural development programs, which also includes taking care of vulnerable members of the society. So the chiefs, the headmen, and the village heads have got a detailed report within their jurisdictions of who are the most vulnerable members of the society, which also include child-headed families, which also includes the old, which also includes many other disabled people. So the target is to target vulnerable members of the society, utilizing the Zundera Mambo. I know originally the Zundera Mambo program was generally a program whereby within a jurisdiction, people contribute through a government program towards a strategic grain reserve within the context of a particular chief who has got a certain jurisdiction and the population under him. But in this particular case, it is the government which has put in place a mechanism which will allow the chiefs to be capacitated and resourced with grain so that they can certainly deal with the challenges in terms of the food shortages within their jurisdictions. So that's the target. So in this particular case, it's the government of Zimbabwe which is resourcing the particular chiefs, not the other way around. So that's the target. The second question, Professor Mtulingo, I think this should be your question. The members of the fourth estate want to know about the status of the urban cash transfer program and how much money is being utilized to mobilize the grain. I can come in somehow to cater for the movement of the grain, but I'll allow the Minister of Finance to deal with the financial issues.
Should I proceed?
Yeah, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, as you know, government is a very robust program in terms of the drought release response and covering both rural and urban affected families. Our approach has been to use both the commodities approach, giving out commodity in the form of grain, but also cash transfers. Now, obviously, our preference has been mainly, giving out food. Then we know that people are going to eat it. Usually with cash. Cash is fungible. It could be used in ways that then won't support the vulnerable families. But we're doing both. In both urban and rural areas. So in the urban areas, we are going to be implementing a cash transfer program, already doing that, and we believe that we really got adequate resources. Well, look, we never have adequate resources, but with substantial resources that we've deployed. There are two streams of resources as government that are under control. One is resources coming out directly from the budget allocation from budget for this year, 2024. But also recently we got a payment equivalent to $32 million from insurance that we took, sovereign insurance that we took as government, and that will also supplant the resources that we deployed towards both the grain and cash distributions. So really, I don't think one wants to pronounce too early in terms of the actual cash amount per person. Those things need to be fine-tuned and properly assessed. But I can assure you that the amount will be something that would cause some grief to those who are affected. So that's what I can say for now. And going forward, we want to expand the insurance program further. Currently, we are only covering 27 districts. The next time around, we want to cover all districts, a good part of the district, at least 90%. So we'll be doubling our insurance, but also increasing the allocated amount within the budget to deal with that vulnerability. But let me stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Also to buttress what Professor Mtulingwe has just indicated. The first issue is to underline the importance of the commitment by government led by His Excellency President Mnangagwa when he clearly indicated that no one will die of hunger. So what we currently doing is the utilization of the strategic grain reserve that we currently have. So what you will see in terms of these reports is the inter-depot transfers. For example, you have more grain, let's say in Makoni district, and you have less grain in Boera district. So the inter-depot transfer of grain from a district which has more grain in order to ensure that we leave no one and no place behind, and also in order to follow in terms of the practicalities, in terms of the implementation of the President's directive that no one should die of hunger. So you obviously have the Mashonaland regions having more grain than other region 4 and 5 provinces. So this is the inter-depot transfer of grain across the country, utilizing the strategic grain reserve. But not only are we dealing with such issues, you will recall that some years back, we used to discuss in cabinet about how best and where we could import grain from. But over the last few years, utilizing the Pfumbudza Intwasa program and also utilizing a number of initiatives, which also include the mechanization of the agricultural sector, the capitalization in terms of irrigation equipment, and also the construction of dam infrastructure across the country. We now have less of imports. Only this year, because we've been affected by the El Nino challenges, which has devastated a number of crops across the country, mainly because the rains came late, and also the season was not properly supported because most of the regions are rain-fed. And now, in order to build resilience, what we're focusing on is the recent irrigation conference, which was officially opened by His Excellency the President, to support the agricultural sector through equipping all the regions with irrigation equipment, which also includes coming into partnership with a number of suppliers of equipment. So we believe that at the end of this El Nino season, we will be able to develop a robust, resilient economy. Because now in total we've got 10,600 dams across the country. So the Irrigation Investment Conference is going to bring on board a lot of capital equipment, which is going to support agricultural sector, combined by utilizing the agroecological tailoring method that we are currently utilizing across the country, which clearly define what should be planted in a particular region and what should not be planted in a particular region. And also the coming on board of the agriculture information management system combined by the agroecological regions now utilizing ICT. So we believe that these challenges will be a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, for responding to the first round of questions. Let us move to the second and last round of 3 questions. Yes.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. My name is Mokoze Chivhayo from the Drought. My question is directed towards the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Honorable, can you please shed more light about Zimbabwe's collaboration with Venezuela following our inaugural GPCC in Venezuela? Yet there are a lot of areas they are looking to collaborate with Zimbabwe, areas like mining, energy, sports, among others. And when can this take off? What's the latest in terms of the collaboration between the 2 countries? Also, the other question, I'm not sure, Chief Secretary, if it was discussed in the Cabinet about our preparations for the upcoming SADC Summit. Can we have more details on where we as a country, if it was discussed, where are we as a country in terms of preparedness? We're also looking at roads. If you look at Lorraine Drive, there are concerns that some roads, the government ordered that a road will be redone, considering that some of the work is now being done on a tight schedule. Are you confident that our contractors will continue doing the best job? Because we see that there's no time, especially when working with tight deadlines, that if they do a short job, they have time to correct that. If it was discussed in Cabinet.
Okay, thank you very much. The Honorable Minister and Chair will respond to that. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Oscar Go, freelance journalist. I've got one question and one request. The request is for the Minister possibly to speak in vernacular, in Shona, precisely on the issue of ground. Takenda kunzwa kuti ndezvipi zvaiswa nehurumende pachatanga process iyi since tachiona kuti inoamba ita recurring, ndezvipi zvaiswa nehurumende kuti this process is exhaustive and the key is so open up to the people to speak out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question. Last question. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Okay, thank you. I will respond first to the status of the SADC summit. Well, it was not discussed, but generally I will respond to that. We are confident about the progress that has been achieved so far as we prepare to host the SADC summit. As you know, that this is clearly redefined Zimbabwe in terms of the success of the engagement and re-engagement strategy. And it has correctly put Zimbabwe's economic, social, and political position in terms of international relations. And the success of the SADC summit, as we've hosted many other summits and many other conferences, is clearly defined Zimbabwe as the paragon of international relations, which has clearly demonstrated that Zimbabwe as a country has got a successful strategy in terms of being a member of the international community. Yes, the road infrastructure, we are very happy about that. We are also happy about the corrective measures that the particular contractor who had done a job which had shortcomings, that they've put in place resources to rectify that challenge. We're also happy and more than euphoric about the success stories that we've registered in terms of water reticulation, in terms of communication infrastructure, in terms of preparedness, in terms of the villas, and at the same time in terms of the accommodation, because we have now reached the final stages in terms of the preparations. So we are more than confident that everything has been put in place, and that the construction of roads has just coincided with the SADC summit. We've already started working years back on the ERRP first and the second phase, which focuses mainly on infrastructure projects, because Vision 2030 is mainly focusing on infrastructure projects. So we've put everything in place, and we are confident that the hosting of the summit will be successful. The second question goes to Dr. Shava about Zimbabwe's collaboration with Venezuela. They want more light, Honorable Minister, about the MOUs that have been signed between the Republic of Zimbabwe and Venezuela.
Thank you very much for the question, Mukudze. And I want to just say that Zimbabwe and Venezuela had no cooperation before this, except that we used to meet in a number of fora. The one forum that we have always met is the non-aligned movement forum. The other is the G77 in China forum. And the third one is a forum that was created by like-minded countries in the United Nations who are ardent supporters of the Charter. So we have that commonality between ourselves and Venezuela. However, both Zimbabwe and Venezuela have been subjected to sanctions from the West. You know the genesis of Zimbabwean sanctions from 2002 or even 2000 after our land reform program. The Venezuelans were also subjected to sanctions, especially after Hugo Chavez took over control of Venezuela and stopped their oil being exploited by the United States of America. So as a result, there were punitive measures put to them by the Americans. And they continue to negotiate, of course, for their removal, like we continue to negotiate for the removal of sanctions on Zimbabwe. So it was natural, therefore, to say, what can we do together to push for independence in our own situations. So we thought it was good to compare notes. So we compared notes. And all these MOUs that have been mentioned, agriculture, we compared notes in agriculture. How can we cooperate in agriculture to make sure that our nationals have adequate food? And How can we cooperate in energy to ensure that our countries have sufficient energy for our people, so on, including scholarships, science and technology, mining, housing, transportation, and so on. We looked at all that, and we zeroed on certain MOUs which we signed. We are very keen to learn from what the Venezuelans have been doing to make sure that they are independent in terms of food supply. You know what our own efforts have been in this country. So we can say this about several other MOUs. So we thought we should meet, formalize our relationship, and move forward together. And we also asked Venezuela to support Zimbabwe in its quest to become a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council come 27-28. And they are very happy to support us. And in the next 2 years, next year, the MOUs that we've signed will be reviewed by a committee of officials here in Zimbabwe, and then in 2026 we'll have a second session with Venezuela. And I suppose at that point we'll also analyze what progress we will have made. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Yeah, I will respond to the question related to adequate resources being put in place for the National Healing and Community Outreach Program, also known as the Gukurahundi, which primarily for now is focusing on Matabeleland provinces. That is the answer. But I want you to appreciate that the National Healing and Community Outreach Program had not stalled anything in terms of national development, because Vision 2030 is primarily focusing on ensuring that we leave no one and no place behind, including Matabeleland provinces. It's just that for now, the National Healing and Community Outreach Program is focusing on Matabeleland. I'll tell you so many signature projects that have been implemented in Matabeleland North and South, and also in Bulawayo Metropolitan Province. The National E-Learning Strategy is ongoing to computerize many other schools across the country. The Byte Bridge Border Post, the Gwai Shangani project, which is going to automatically turn Matabeleland into a green belt. The Pfumvudza Intwasa program has been ongoing, the birth certificate issues, the decentralization of passports and national IDs, the construction of clinics and hospitals across the country, the Welshman Mabena complex, the Mkashangela, many other projects that have been undertaken under the leadership of President Mnangagwa. So it's an ongoing process. So this is the official commencement of proceedings, because the president is a listening president. Over the years, he has managed to ensure that we strengthen and consolidate the inclusive approach as we seek to ensure that no one and no place is left behind as we journey towards an upper middle income society by the year 2030. So the National Development Strategy is about the whole country. It's about nation building. So this is just the official commencement of the community outreach program. So resources have been put in place, and we see the vision of the president is to bring finality to any outstanding issues within that particular region. Thank you. Also, your side.
Honorable Ministers, senior government officials, members of the media, thank you very much for attending today's post-cabinet briefing. We've come to the end of today's session. We'll meet again next Tuesday. Thank you very much.